These are some general thoughts that I put together related to the recent Nashville, Tennessee Christian school shooting. First of all, prayers. Prayers for those affected by the shooting, prayers for the families of the victims. This shooting is a further symptom of the fragmentation of society. Basically, society is falling apart. People are further and further isolated from and at odds with each other. There is less and less agreement on basic norms, standards, and principles. Things that were once plain no longer are. We are living in confused and divided times. For example, the shooter identified as transgender. Now, we're living in a time when many would see Bible-believing Christians as pushers of hate against the transgender community. Some may even be compelled at looking at the shooter as if they were the victim of hate and that they were pushed to take such extreme actions. And Bible believers, as representing the old order of things, with old-fashioned and outdated ways of seeing things, must be held accountable for perpetuating bigoted perspectives of the past. The transgender community has become a community that is encouraged to see itself as victims deserving of justice. Homosexuality and transgender disorders were once classified as mental illnesses. Well, things have changed. Now what was once correctly understood to be unhealthy and perverse is glorified and celebrated. I'm not saying this out of hatred, for we're to love all people, regardless of how they identify. Jesus died for all people, and therefore all people have infinite worth in the sight of God, and all people have the opportunity to become a new creature and a new creation in Christ. And so this isn't about the person, but it is about the sin. When you are living in a way that is in rebellion against how God designed you, you can never experience peace regardless of how much society is forced to accommodate you. We don't do anybody any service by lying to them. We don't do anybody any service by going along with their delusions. And so what is happening is that instead of accurately addressing this problem in individuals and allowing for the opportunity for these matters to be addressed in as healthy a way as possible, the whole of society is being turned upside down to accommodate the feelings and desires of those with these problems. When you have a society that glorifies disorders and attacks and demonizes its healthiest parts, this is what you keep getting. Social engineers, politicians pushing so-called progressive agendas, and influencers in the media are to blame, at least to a large degree, for attacking Christian morality, traditional family values, masculinity, order, self-discipline, and traditional roles, and at the same time claiming victimhood for and glorifying society's weakest and most problematic elements, even to the point of telling them that whatever emotion they feel is correct and not to be questioned, and that you are justified in throwing a tantrum, even if it means breaking the law. Now, I'm not speaking only in regards to the transgender community at this point, but any community that has been designated as a victim community by the social engineers. It may be considered protesting, for example, to destroy property. So this glorifying of emotion over reason is another part of the problem. One result of this emotionalism is the inability to have discussions and conversations with people who have different perspectives. So reasoning is no longer possible or even allowed. People are simply not allowed to disagree with the so-called victims, and even certain words may justifiably trigger those sensitized to such words or ideas. Therefore, speech must be limited, and free speech and thought are under attack. Such things were foundational to American society. So if you don't have free thought, free speech and freedom of conscience, you don't have freedom. And so what do you end up with? You end up with the belief, for one thing, you end up with the belief that in certain cases, it is acceptable and even necessary to attack people and to destroy things to achieve the necessary end. For one person, this belief may manifest itself in rioting. For someone else, more isolated and antisocial in nature, it may come out in shooting up a school. Now, this is obviously not to say that all shooters are transgenders. That would be ridiculous. And obviously, most people who identify that way aren't capable of such violence. But what I'm saying is we have a society that is falling apart, where healthy communication and disagreement isn't possible, where people are learning to bottle things up and, in some cases, explode, because they are not taught healthy communication, or they aren't provided with the kind of help or answers that they need. And ultimately, Christ is the answer. And so what we have is a society that is increasingly disordered, chaotic, and confused, with no clear moral framework, no Christian civil religion any longer, no clear understanding of right and wrong, and where the antibodies of society, so to speak, those elements of society that are there to regulate things in a healthy manner, they are being attacked by many in positions of authority and influence. And so you don't have a healthy church, one of those antibodies of society. You don't have a healthy church. You don't have a church that is equipped to address things, or you have a church that is compromised in some way, or compromising with the trends of the world, and therefore rendered useless to address the issues. Well, you have families that are falling apart. Healthy traditions and norms, and even what it means to be a man, or what it means to be a woman, are under attack. There are no more self-evident truths. Things once plain are blurred. And so hopeless and angry individuals, loners, mentally disturbed people who don't know their place in an increasingly immoral, narcissistic, and hopeless society, and are confused about their identity, generally speaking. Now, again, not just talking about transgenders. They go untreated, and in some cases, turn on society in violence. Society needs a healthy framework to hold together. Proverbs 14:34, righteousness exalts a nation, any nation. You need strong families. You need strong churches. You need a healthy government with proper checks, balances, and boundaries. But when leaders attack families by redefining marriage, and even what it is to be a male or a female, they are attacking foundational aspects of society. Besides this, when a society's entertainment is no longer uplifting or virtuous, what are the results? Confusion and anger. Confusion and anger. The saddest thing is when religious leaders take part in furthering the confusion of society when they should be the ones providing clarity. On the other hand, the church, generally speaking, has fallen short. In the Laodicean lukewarm period we are in, to reference Revelation chapter 3 from 15 to 18, and we need that eye salve to see things clearly. The gun laws were never the problem in and of themselves. The ability to purchase certain weapons doesn't turn somebody into a murderer. If someone wants to murder someone, they will find a way to do it. When I was a kid, and before that, we didn't have mass shooting after mass shooting. Yet the laws were the same. People don't see that if the law was never an issue before, it can't be the gun laws that are the problem, but rather the things those influencers are doing to society that is the problem. These social engineers, progressive politicians, and influencers in the media are creating confusion and chaos so that they can seize power. Freedom and liberty aren't the problem. The problem is rendering mankind so confused, immoral, and incapable of self-government and freedom that you have a reason to take it away from them in the name of the common good. And that is what is happening and will continue to happen.